swinging my legs.
Okay, so welcome everybody. I am going to call this city council workshop for Tuesday, October 17th to order. And let the record show that the entire council is present, even though Mr. Harris is back there getting a sandwich, so he's here.
Yep.
So first thing on the agenda is DS 17106, discuss agenda items for the regular city council meeting of October 24, 2017. And it jumps right into resolutions, so easy. So RS 17-108, consider memorandum resolution appointing a Killeen representative to the Bell County Tax Appraiser District Board. Mrs. Davis, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. This item and the next item are a follow-up of your September board appointments, the ones that we weren't able to do at that time, so we're hoping to be able to finish those up now. And the first one I'm going to address with you is an appointment of a Killeen representative to the Bell County Tax Appraisal District Board. As a little bit of background, the Bell County Tax Appraisal District is responsible for appraising property in the district for ad valorem taxes and for the collection of those ad valorem taxes and distribution to the municipalities. The Tax Appraisal District does have a board of directors, and that board is composed of 7 representatives from surrounding cities, school districts, and other eligible entities. The duties of the board is to set policy and procedure for the tax district of Bell County, but the board itself has no jurisdiction over the setting of property tax values. Killeen is responsible for the appointment of one of those directors and has participated in the Bell County Tax Appraisal District Board since 1993. Oops, sorry, I get confused. All right, and our alternatives are to continue participation on the Tax Appraisal Board by appointing a Killeen representative to the board in order to ensure that Killeen's interests are served by the board representation, or do not appoint a Killeen representative and leave that seat vacant. This appointment does conform with the Texas Tax Code, which states that members of the board of directors of the appraisal district serve 2-year terms beginning on January 1st of even-numbered years. There is no financial impact to the city to participate on this board. City's recommendation is that Royce Matkin has served as Killeen's representative for the past 14 years and is agreeable to serve another 2-year term. The city has received no other applications for appointment to this board. Therefore, it is recommended that Royce Matkin be reappointed to serve the city's position on that board for another 2-year term beginning January 1st, 2018. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Davis? Everybody okay with Royce? All right, so we're good on that one. RS 17-109, consider memorandum resolution appointing members to the remaining seats of the KEDC Board and the Arts Commission Board. Ms. Davis.
All right. The Chamber of Commerce and KIF representatives to the KEDC Board had not been appointed by the Chamber in time for you to complete your appointments on September 12th. The Chamber has since appointed Bobby Hawksworth as its Chamber representative to KEDC, and Carl Green is the KIF representative to KEDC. The Arts Commission also has a vacancy for a member with expertise in the area of folk art, sculpture, and painting. This vacancy did occur when you were considering appointments back in August and September, and we had no applicants, and unfortunately, we still have no applicants. We have reached out to various arts groups and tried to encourage participation on this board with no luck yet. So we're hoping that maybe some more public outreach can be done by members of the council. If you may know of some individuals who may have expertise or interest in the areas of folk art, sculpture, or painting and may be interested in serving on the Arts Commission, please have them get in touch with Diana Barker and fill out an application.
Does that position, do they have to live in Killeen?
I'll have to check. I don't think that they do. I think it's one of the ones where they have to be in the ETJ, but I'll verify that.
Okay. Mr. Johnson?
I would like to recommend Antonio Fraley. I talked to him in detail about this position, and he qualifies.
Okay.
He's interested, and
Do it?
I told him the times, the location, and how often the commission meets, and he's ready to rock and roll.
Does
Okay.
he have an application in?
Yes, he's put it in for the Arts Commission.
Or Arts Commission? Okay.
We're okay. Get them.
We will verify that, and then if he has applied and does meet that requirement, I'll put his name on the resolution for next week if everyone's in agreement.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Next is RS 17-110. Consider memorandum resolution rejecting all bids. Number 17-18, Girl Scouts of Central Texas Killeen Service Center Rehabilitation Project. Mrs. Hinkle, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. If you will think back with me to 16-17, the council awarded the Girl Scouts of Central Texas a CDBG grant to rehabilitate their service center on Lake Road. There was some delay in requiring the architectural services and the procurement, which delayed the procurement process. The bidding did take place in August of 2017, resulting in one bid that was received. That bid did exceed the budget by 2 times the amount of the project. The bid analysis resulted in the architect's reasonable cost estimate for the base bid was a little over $205,000. That reasonable cost was created under favorable conditions prior to the disasters that we've had in Texas, on the Gulf Coast and other areas. There was a single bid that was received, a little over $445,000, and staff is recommending that you consider rejecting that bid, and also that the Girl Scouts is returning the funding to the city of Killeen, and that staff is recommending that you consider a mid-year allocation for a public facility type project in the near future. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mrs. Hinkle? Mr. Okrie?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the award of the developmental block grant, will that money be reprogrammed for use in the next fiscal year?
What I would like to consider, or for you to consider, is to do a mid-year allocation and not let that money sit. And it would be only for a public facility type project. So you'll be, if you're all in agreement, then I would bring a program amendment, and then we would have to have a public hearing, but then we could do a mid-year allocation announcement for that.
So would this be for the same organization or different organization?
Totally different organization. They've returned the funds.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, anybody else? Mr. Johnson?
I have a question. On your slide, you said the bid was prior to Hurricane Harvey. What effect do you think that may have had?
Well, what we've been experiencing and hearing, and just keeping up with construction in general, is that the cost of goods and materials are increasing.
This,
Everything going up, especially here in Texas. Anybody else got any questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Hinkle. RS 17-111, consider memorandum resolution authorizing a lease agreement with Professional Turf Products, LPPNC, finance for parks, athletic fields, and greenbelt mowers for parks and public grounds via the buy board. Mr. Williams, welcome.
Yes, sir, Mayor, City Council, Mr. City Manager. The item before you is to consider a lease agreement for parks and public grounds for mowers. Our current lease will expire, it says October 1st, but this is the last month of our lease. We're proposing entering into a 3-year agreement, annual expenditure just under $15,000. Total expenditure over 3 years will be $44,135. We did obtain the pricing via the buy board. Our fiscal year 17-18 budget does include funding in the amount of $14,711.76 for this. Very similar to our golf cart, golf mower replacement. It provides us up-to-date warranted equipment, increased efficiencies in mowing techniques, and decreased downtime related to equipment malfunction. These are the mowers that do the brunt of the work within our operations. To give you an idea, Parks and Public Grounds, 927 acres that we maintain, and some of the municipal athletic and recreational complexes you see listed below: Andy K. Wells, LCP Hike and Bike, Community Center, Family Recreation Center, City Hall, and various facilities. This mower here is a real mower. There will be one of these included. It's 4 pieces of equipment. This will be one of the pieces. This is a real mower that maintains our softball fields and our baseball fields. It's done with the real mower. It's a specific type of equipment that maintains the grass at a very short length. The one on the left is a walk-behind 36-inch mower, and this is one that we use to get in and out of various places. And then the one on the right, there'll be two pieces of that equipment, and that's the big ride-on that's 72 inches. Does a lot of our big open field cutting at the hike and bike trails and our vast turf that we have to cut. I'll entertain any questions anyone has.
Questions for Mr. Williams? Mr. Johnson?
I have one of those questions. It's probably going to take you a little bit, but I think you'll probably email me later. Is there enough room to put advertising space on there, and is that allowed? Think about it and just respond later on.
Okay. Yes, sir. Advertising on the actual mowers? Okay. We'll look at that.
He's talking about we do it on the fields already, so might as well put it on lawnmowers and stuff. Put numbers on
But
them.
in the NBA now, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
They're putting it on jerseys, so I mean.
Put numbers on them, too. So. All right, any other questions for Mr. Williams? All right, you got the next one, too.
Yes, sir.
RS 17-112, consider memorandum resolution awarding bid number 17-17 to Easy Go TCF Equipment Finance for the lease of rental golf carts at the Stone Tree Golf Club. Mr. Williams.
Yes, sir. This is for the replacement of our cart fleet. These are the carts that patrons to the golf course utilize to travel the course. Current lease expires December 4th of this year. We're proposing a 4-year lease, annual expenditure $45,000. Over 4 years, it's going to be just under $181,000. The low bid that we received was from EasyGo. This will be a change. We previously were at Yamaha. We do have budgeted funds to cover this expenditure. To give you an idea, we net $150,000 per year revenue off of cart rentals. And so you can see our profit margin over the 4-year duration of the lease is $600,000, give or take, depends on how revenue fluctuates. But this is important. People come when they want to play golf. We got to make sure we have a fleet that's functioning. And the batteries don't die, because when you're playing 18 holes of golf, you don't want it to go dead after 9 holes. Our current fleet is pretty much at its life expectancy at 4 years, and so this ensures that we have a fully functional fleet to maximize our profits. And then enhance customer service experience. No one wants to go play and have a cart that goes dead on them. Stone Tree, brief overview, 18-hole public course, 43 rounds of golf played annually, $1 million in revenue on average. Host over 45 regional, state, national, and local tournaments. You'll see a list of some of the tournaments that we currently host right there. And then there's a picture of Easy Go Kart at its finest.
I think we got advertising on these, don't we, Mr. Johnson?
Do we?
We can, I've got both of them. We'll look at both of them. Yes, sir.
I like that. That's a good idea.
I remember they had advertising. Anybody else got any questions? Mr. Johnson?
It's the golf course. I was thinking of revenues. Is it still in the red?
We
Or is
are
it-
about, based on projections this year, we're probably about 50,000 from breaking even. And so we've decreased that, some staff adjustments, and we've gone from about $240,000 in the negative down to 50,000, and the goal is to break even.
I think the solution is right there.
Could be, and
Advertisement. I support that. Thank you, Mayor.
Right. Anybody else? All right. RS 17-113, consider memorandum resolution appointing members to the Youth Advisory Commission. Mr. Williams.
yes, sir. This is the annual appointment, and I'll try not to mess this up because Roxanne does it so well, but I'm filling in today. October annually, the city makes appointments to the YAC. This year, interviews were conducted September 2nd of 2017, and if I recall correctly, I believe it was the mayor, Councilman Harris, Councilwoman Nash King, and myself. Somehow I got lucky enough to sit in there with them and eat breakfast tacos and do these interviews. You can see on the list on the left are the 16, 17 members, and you can see that we're recommending for 17, 18, the replacements there. I won't read all the names. They'll be at the meeting for the standard procedure next week. And once again, 16, 17 members and their replacements for 17, 18. They're all student representatives. Staff recommends appointing the list as presented to you.
All right. Any questions? Mr. Johnson.
I have a question. I was reading up on the YAC, and it says that it's supposed to advise the council. Is that done through staff or?
I don't want to give you a bad answer on that. Let me confer with Roxanne and make sure I get you the right answer on how we do that, and I will email that to you. But I know that is their purpose, but I'll get the specifics in terms of how that occurs.
All right. Anybody else? Great committee. That's one of my favorite committees to be on when you see so many great kids come through and very smart, too. Very smart. A couple of them actually had called me this week because they want to volunteer and they want to help out at the event that they're doing a fundraising for Puerto Rico and Mexico, so. All right, anybody else? All right, moving on. RS 17-114, consider memorandum resolution approving termination of concession lease agreement with Crystal and Richard Sullivan, DBA Green Beans Coffee at Killeen Fort Hood Regional Airport. Mr. Van Valkenburg, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council, City Manager, stand-in, and City Attorney. This is really going to be in two parts. The first will be the request for termination, then an RFQ. So I'm going to give you a little vinegar first, then I'll give you the honey on top of that. Green Beans had an approved lease in July of 2010 to provide services for the airport. In 2016, they assigned that lease to Crystal and Richard Sullivan, doing business as Crystal's Cafe. Crystal's Cafe has a history of delinquent payments, and we sent them a certified letter in July 2017 for them to give us a plan of action and milestones to correct that. However, they responded later on in September 2017 with a notice of the business closing. We are not the only firm to which they owe funds. We considered a couple alternatives. One was to attempt to work with the tenant to collect fees. However, we rejected that due to them closing their business. Therefore, we're going to move forward with alternative number 2, with a request for lease termination. Since the tenant cannot meet his obligations, staff does need the authority to move forward to begin the process of locating a new food and beverage vendor for the airport. Thus, we recommend City Council approve the termination of Christian Richard Sullivan lease agreement and authorize the city manager to execute any and all necessary documentation to effect the termination, and that staff starts seeking alternative measures to collect what fees are due them. And I'll take any questions you have.
All right, questions for Mr. Van Valkenburg. Mr. Kilpatrick.
Can we ask the city attorney, what are our options of collecting?
Options?
I would need to review that with the airport. I know we do have an attorney who is assigned to the airport, and she's been the one that's working with them most closely, and so I will actually need to follow up and see what steps we've taken. But from what I understand, there really is no money to collect. I think that the federal government is also interested in this person, and we would clearly take backseat to any sort of money that's owed. So I think it's kind of like an effort to get money out of a turnip. Blood from a turnip, or whatever that phrase is. But yeah, we're low on the order of people who are going to be getting money from this
Thank you.
this
Thank you,
business.
Mr.
Do
Unfortunately,
they, do we do anything on their credit? Does that go on their credit?
No, sir.
Nothing?
Mm-mm.
All right, anybody else? All right, that's it.
Next.
We got the next one. RS 17-115, consider memorandum resolution approving a use of a request for proposal, RFP, for the selection of a food service and beverage concession tenant at Killeen Fort Hood Regional Airport. Mr. Van Valkenburg.
Thank you again, sir, Council, City Manager, City Attorney. This is a request to select a vendor to provide food and beverage services at a concession at the Killeen Fort Hood Regional Airport. This is the honey. This is a great opportunity for us. The RFP is the right tool. It's qualitative, evaluative, provides a mechanism to compare various proposals. We can really look at a venture potential and what is the best value for both the city and the airport. We did consider several alternatives: to use the RFP, to use a bid process, or to use an RFQ process. However, we do recommend alternative 1 because it saves time, development costs. It permits the selection of the most suitable and cost-effective vendor for the airport. There's no initial financial obligation or impacts against the airport, and it provides the best value alternative. Therefore, we do recommend that City Council authorize staff to utilize the request for proposals evaluation process to identify and select the best value and the best vendor to provide services at the Killeen Fort Hood Regional Airport. I'll answer any questions you may
Any
have.
questions? Do we, when we get people that are interested in there, do we provide them with the data of our traffic count, you know, how many people are walking that airport and stuff like that?
Yes, sir, that's actually in the RFP. We provide all that information up front so they know what they're looking at.
And
Then we provide them a period it's called a pre-proposal meeting they come to, and that's where we take all their questions and answer all those kinds of things also.
And are we kind of keeping the terms and stuff kind of the same? Because I think I read it was like maybe $1,500 a month is the lease?
We will negotiate the proper terms for the vendor that we have coming in based upon the services they propose to provide. So, no, sir, nothing's the same. Everything's going to be renegotiated and reevaluated.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Mr. Rivera?
I just want to hear that right. The rent is $1,500?
Well, their minimum annual, or their minimum monthly guarantee for the past one was $1,500. That's not what's going to be, we're not proposing any monetary value in this request for proposal. We're going to negotiate that with them.
Is there any additional, well, in the past, let's say in the past, would there additional money be owing to it after the $1,500? That's an additional percentage?
Yes, sir, there is. There's always a percentage over the minimum annual based upon how much they make. There's also percentages of alcohol sales that you get on top of normal sales. Mhm.
It'll be a lot of sale.
Got to make a lot of sales, that's it.
There better be a lot of sale through there.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's just a comment.
All right, anybody else?
A lot of sale.
All right, thank you. Mr. Van Valkenburg. RS 17-116, consider memorandum resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an interlocal agreement with the city of Harker Heights to construct a portion of the Heritage Oaks Hike and Bike Trail Segment 3A within the city of Harker Heights jurisdiction. Mr. Olson, welcome.
All right, thank you, Mayor. As you mentioned, this is an item for an interlocal agreement with the city of Harker Heights, part of the construction of our Rosewood Drive extension / Heritage Oaks Hike and Bike Trail project. And one of the conditions that we applied for funding with K-Tempo was to make a regional connection for this park into the city of Harker Heights and connect to Purser Park. This agreement allows for that connection to happen in a few ways. It allows for the dedication of that concrete trail upon completion of the project to the city of Harker Heights for long-term maintenance and ownership. It establishes the city of Killeen as the project lead, meaning that we will be making project management decisions associated with the project. And it allows the city of Harker Heights to furnish the necessary easements and rights-of-way associated with the construction of this trail. What you see here is an overall map of the Rosewood Heritage Oaks project. Specifically what we're talking about tonight, up on the top right portion of the screen, or northeast, you see a connection that goes over just as it crosses the creek there. The Harker Heights city limits line is located, and you'll have approximately 300 linear feet of trail that will be inside of the city of Harker Heights city limits. There are a couple alternatives to consider here. One alternative was that we pursue this interlocal agreement and allow for connection to the regional facility, and the second was to eliminate this connection to Purser Park. We don't recommend that because it does place future funding at risk, because we would be going back then on what we said we were going to do originally. City staff recommends that we authorize the city manager to enter into an interlocal agreement with the city of Harker Heights, and I'm glad to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Okrie.
Yes, thank you. Just really a comment, Mr. Olson, for making this. This was clear as mud, but it's crystal clear now. And I think what it's been is you took the time to actually, in your explanation, to explain some stuff. So thank you for that.
All right. Mr. Harris.
Okay, just to make clear, when you talk about connection with Purser Park, or just connection anyway in general, now when you say connection, are you talking about connection to the property, the property lines, or a connection to the park itself?
It's a physical connection to the trails that are located inside of Purser Park.
Which is in Harker Heights, though?
Yes.
Okay. Like I said, 'cause I'm just thinking like we're building trails in Harker Heights.
A lot of
And-
a lot of the houses are in Killeen.
And
Well, I know that, but I'm saying we're running the trail. I'm just, so.
reason being here, when we apply for funding for the Rosewood project and the Heritage Oaks project, we're receiving in total somewhere around $9.5 million towards this project from the federal government. You know, overall, it's going to be about a $13 million project. When we applied for funding originally, one of the things that we put in there that gave us a higher score for this project for federal funding was that we had regional connections, meaning it was greater than just the city of Killeen. We're connecting down to Bell County on the south end, and we're connecting into the city of Harker Heights up on the north end. So that gets additional points, which allowed us to obtain funding for this project that we may have not otherwise been granted.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Okray.
Yeah, so just to be clear, Mr. Olson, you saying that it was a force multiplier to do this with the city of Parker Heights gaining the money that we needed to do ours with just that one little piece they get theirs, you know, it makes
Yes,
it better with a force multiplier.
yes.
Thank you.
And just to clarify too, the cost of the piece that's inside of the city of Harker Heights is going to be, it's estimated right now at about $17,000 for the total section, but it will likely be less than that as bids come in.
Yeah, that's a great project. I think that part of town in Killeen, it's very active. I get out there every morning, and a lot of people are out there walking and going to the park. So even though the park is in Harker Heights, we get a lot of people from the White Rock area, where all the housing is, that utilize that park. So it's a real good project. Mrs. King, you had some?
I think it's a win-win for everybody. You did a great job, your team, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Okray?
Man, out of the $13 million, there's 17 million, but the majority of that is in our city.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just trying to be clear.
More than three-quarters.
All right, anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Olson. And I think that is our last item. You guys were fast today. Motion by Mr. Kilpatrick to adjourn. Second by Mrs. King. All those in favor of adjourning, just say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.